Welcome to this edition of Stuart Cameron Talks Rugby, and today we have two legends for you from the game. Mighty Mouse himself, Ian McLauchlan, the president of Scottish Rugby Union, and of course a former Scotland and British Lion prop. And in 1971, his heyday when he scored that amazing try in the middle of the night, our time, to clinch the Test series for the British Lions over in New Zealand. Talking to him a little bit later on, he was in Selkirk recently to open up the new pavilion and all-weather area at Selkirk Rugby Club. But first, Jim Renwick, a man who needs no introduction at all, a Hawick and Scotland and British Lion legend. And I had a chat with him recently down at Milntown, which is the home of Langham Rugby Club. And we were having a little talk and a look forward to the Scotland campaign in the World Cup in New Zealand. Jim, what about our chances this year? There must be, quite a lot of confidence there.
I think so. I think if we get a good start to the competition and we've got two hard games, physical games, can we beat England out there on the day? Maybe we can. I hope so. At worst, I would hope would be second in the group, which unfortunately gives you a game against the All Blacks probably. But if we get to the last 8, then who knows on the day? I think that the last 8 would be a good effort and a good performance against the All Blacks probably.
What about our preparation so far? 2 games, 2 warm-up games, both won. Just the one injury, sadly, Nicky Walker obviously not making it, Simon Danieli coming in. But the preparation seems to have gone according to plan.
Aye, it's a tough one on Nicky. I think he'll be very disappointed, and I think the Hawick people especially. But however, the preparation, everybody's different. Some are having more games, some are having less games. I know Scotland have rested a few players. Hopefully when you get out there, we can build a bit of confidence. The fact that we've beat Italy and we've beat our other warm-up game against Ireland, we've won 2 games. Sometimes winning builds confidence, and hopefully we'll take that out to New Zealand, because it's all about winning.
Can you see us slipping up against Romania or Georgia? Georgia's the one that everyone seems to be talking about as, the serious banana skin potentially.
You can see Scotland slipping up against anybody, because that's sometimes the way we play. You couldn't tell sometimes when Scotland go to the pitch if we were going to win the Test. I mean, we didn't win many in the 6 nations last year, and you just never know. It was Scotland at their best. They could give teams a game, but you just never know. At their worst, then it'll be tough against Romania and Georgia, and hopefully it'll be at our best these 2 games, get them out the road and have a crack at England. Well, England's the last game. Argentina and England, who might have qualified by then, you might decide to try and win the group. I think that has to be it, because you'll get an easier draw.
What about Andy Robinson then as Scottish coach? I mean, you've played under a number of different coaches. Obviously, you've been casting your eye on Andy and the way he works with his players, and of course loads and loads of experience there, and of course a former World Cup winner. Well,
that's right. I think the important thing for Andy is that the players seem to like him and respect him, and I think that's a big thing. I think that's what he's got over some of the other coaches in the past, that he's been there, he's got the respect of the players. Having said that, he's maybe not got as much to work with as other countries, and he's got to really make the best of what he's got. I sometimes think we didn't do that. We sometimes pull players off and put them on and give them 20 minutes and half an hour. And very seldom scrum halves play a full international. Props very seldom play. And it's fine if you've got good depth and people coming in. But I sometimes think the players that are in can only get better if they play full games more often. Quite often he must think that Cassiter and Blair are ixie-pixie or whatever. But halfbacks are key, I always think, in a game, and I sometimes think we'll make substitutions just for the sake of it, to keep everybody happy.
Now, you mentioned the halfback position at 9 and 10, of course, and there's this big competition between the experienced Dan Parks, the man who can kick us into good positional areas of the field, and then there's the youngster coming through, Rory Jackson. Who would you go for?
I'll go with Jackson. I think he's the future. You've got to go with that. I'm not saying you can use Parks. The weather's not been good in New Zealand. They've had snow for the first time in 72 years, they're saying. So you never know in New Zealand at this time of the year. You could get a wet day, which really suits Dan Parks. So maybe you're going to have to wait and see what the weather's like. Certainly Parks is probably the better kicker. But Jackson, if he's the guy you're going with, then I think he's the guy who can probably mix things up a bit better than Parksy. Although, who knows on the day.
Now, we've always qualified for the knockout stages of the World Cup, and obviously that is the first aim when we get out there. But 4 years on, of course, there's a lot of guys in the squad who have experienced 4 years ago, and they're better players for it, and they'll be a lot better prepared this time.
Well, hopefully, I think that's sometimes some of the problem in Scottish rugby when you look at these players. How much are they improving? I mean, you look at your Mike Blairs and your Chris Parsons and whoever you want to name, are they improving good enough to take Scotland forward? And I sometimes think we'll get to a level, but we didn't get beyond the next level. I mean, if we were picking a line side at the moment, we'd be genuinely toiling for players to go in there. So that's why I'm saying sometimes players need full games to take their game that little step beyond, because you've not got the depth. And it's a problem in club rugby as well, that you see players getting to a level, but you didn't see them actually going on to the next level.
Now, you've played, obviously, in New Zealand. There's some of the guys in the Scottish squad who haven't. How would you advise them as to how to play? Because it really is a steep learning curve, really, isn't it?
Well, I think you take rugby seriously in this country. Wait till you go to New Zealand. It's a different league, it's a different world, and everybody talks rugby, and it's in everybody's minds. If you're going for a bowl of chips to a restaurant, the woman serving you'll know if you're a loose head or a tight head. They know rugby outside in. It's a national sport, and from that point of view, I think anybody that visits New Zealand comes back with a tougher attitude towards the game. It makes them more aware of their game, and it's a good way. It has to be a quick learning curve, because certainly you come back a better player from New Zealand.
And the New Zealanders do actually like the Scots going over. There's a lot of heritage over there. Of course, a lot of people have from this area have gone over and made their homes in New Zealand. And of course, New Zealand like us because we don't beat them.
That's right. And it's great. It's great when different nowadays, but when we first went, trained in the mornings, got out and met the people in New Zealand, saw the sights. I don't think these boys will have much time to do that, but it was great. And you meet the old ones in New Zealand, the people for the borders of Scotland, and all they want to do is talk about the homeland. And I think that's what they enjoy, meeting the players and talking about Scotland. So it's good. It's good for both sides. But it's a good place to tour. People are very friendly and helpful in New Zealand, and they're down to earth. And it's a good rugby experience, aye.
Well, if all goes to plan, we will meet New Zealand in the semi-final, let's hope. Can we do it? Can we beat them? Hot favourites again?
Well, I've just watched New Zealand get beat by Australia at the moment, and I would think to beat New Zealand in New Zealand, it could be we put up a really good performance and do well, but on a good day you could see New Zealand taking 40-50 points as well. It's very much on the day. There's one thing about New Zealand this time of the year, the weather could be. Who knows? You never know. But if we can get to the last 8 and put up a good performance against New Zealand, I think we can be quietly happy with that.
Well, Ian, it's fabulous to have you as president of the Scottish Rugby Union, as a figurehead, and of course you get to go all round Scotland. Last night it was the big dinner, the one for the Christchurch, and raised £40,000, and tonight you're here at Selkirk helping to open the all-weather facility here at Philippoch.
Yeah, it is a marvellous privilege to be allowed to travel around and to visit all these places like Glasgow City, and then of course Selkirk, slightly different. Although I have to say there's a very good crowd here tonight, and I'm very heartened by it.
Now, you're going out there, obviously, representing Scotland, and of course one of the big things you're going to do, relating back to last night, is present that fabulous cheque to the people of Christchurch and the city of Christchurch.
Well, Christchurch is a great rugby city, and it's very unfortunate that they have lost the opportunity to showcase the World Cup. I think that'll hurt them an awful lot, and I think just to soften the blow a wee bit, it would be nice for the Scottish people to be able to give money to them for the regeneration. I mean, in the overall case of things, it'd be very little, but from a dinner in Scotland, a fantastic effort.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a little talk about the World Cup, because obviously you've played in New Zealand, as we know.
Indeed.
That famous match, 1971, John Rutherford described it as an 80-metre dash to the line.
It was only 62. He was exaggerating.
What are your own memories looking back on that, though? Because that was just a fantastic time.
It was a great time, and I have to say that the playing rugby in New Zealand with the Lions was very, very intense. And I think it will be just as intense with the World Cup. They want to do well by everybody, so they'll shower the kindnesses on people as they did on us, and on the field they'll be ruthless and want to win. But I think the two is a great balance. And I mean, New Zealand is a beautiful country, and it's rugby crazy.
But we're all looking forward very much, and we've got smiles on our faces. We've had 2 wins out of 2, call it 3 if you count the Italian game in the Six Nations, and Andy Robinson in charge. Everyone's buzzing.
We should count them all. Yeah, everybody's buzzing. The boys have worked. I've been with them for 8 weeks, not continuously, but watching their progress over the 8 weeks. And I have to tell you, they have trained really, really hard. And he is a meticulous planner. And along with his backroom team, they have covered all the corners. So all we have to do now is to go out, keep our heads down, work hard, and make sure we win the games. And it will be with Robinson, 1 game at a time. They'll not be thinking ahead to England or thinking ahead to anything else. They will win the games, because there's no point in beating England if you lose to Romania.
What about our pack? We're going out there with 5 props. Of course, that's a particular interest of yours.
You know, I think it's always a very difficult selection process when you have a limited number of players. I'm sure there are some of the boys who have done the training, like Robert Harley and David Denton, who feel a bit aggrieved that they're not going. Greg Laidlaw, I think, I've seen the boy working so hard over the piece, and I'm particularly sorry for him, but I think that Andy seemed to think the balance was 5 props, so it's up to him.
And of course, talking of Greg Laidlaw and the other guys that have missed out, the door's still ajar. There's always going to be injuries, isn't there?
There's always going to be injuries, that's for sure. And I think that from their point of view, the advice to you, they might be down a wee bit just now, but if they keep their sharpness up, they're almost guaranteed to be on the plane. And the further we go into the competition, the better it'll be for them.
So who do you think is going to blossom from the Scottish team? I mean, obviously everyone's talking about Richie Gray and people like that coming through, and it's going to be a hell of an experience for him. Of course, he's still only 21 years old. I think he'll be 22 in a few days. But, you know, there's a lot of young guys coming through, but also blended into that, a lot of people who were there 4 years ago, and they've got 4 years more experience. That's got to help.
Well, I think that watching how he plays, watching how he trains, and as an example to anybody, Chris Patterson is the top man. I mean, he does everything that everybody asks of him, and he is just a great example, a great ambassador for Scottish rugby, both on and off the field. Kelly Brown's another boy that really is just a shining example to everybody, and I think that they are 2 guys that you could look at. And then, of course, you've got my absolute favourite, Alan Jacobson.
What a character.
Oh, fabulous. And he's a great prop. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. He is a great prop, and he will play a great part in the World Cup.
Well, just personally, talking about your presidency, Ian, you've had a year, you're into your second, and I believe that's the final, isn't it?
That's
You'll get 2 years.
Yeah.
What have you taken out of it so far?
A whole lot of fun, great honours, meeting a lot of people that are really the soul of rugby. All the volunteers, the players, right throughout the country, and there is a tremendous amount of goodwill and good work done in rugby, and I think that we need to get people who will foster that goodwill from the top down.
And I think a lot of people have noticed as well, you're much more than a figurehead, you get things done.
I like to get things done. There's just no way I couldn't live my life as a figurehead, so I have to get in there and get the hands dirty a wee bit.
So what's your biggest achievement so far?
I think that probably the greatest achievement is to bring closer together the P1 clubs and the professional sides. I think that's an achievement. I would like to think that we will have more devolution with Edinburgh and Glasgow, and I would hope that they would build them as clubs and not sort of satellites of the union, and that's what I would like to see. And I think if we do that, then the Scottish rugby generally be much stronger, and obviously from that would come more success.